It's always all about you, isn't it? Isn't it? I be fly like a man on the moon. I be fly like a man on the moon. It's always all about you, isn't it? Isn't it?
Yo, what's going on, everybody? I'm back for FL Studio tutorial number 20. This is going to pick up right where tutorial 19 left off, where I did a wide reverb effect, left some space in the middle. I left some space in the middle because now I'm adding in a bass guitar. I've had some people ask me to show how I would do a bass guitar, and I'm going to disappoint some of you because there's not a whole lot to it really, and that's kind of the answer actually. You want to start with a good recording, good software, and just do a couple of things and get it into your mix however you got to. But you know, when you go out and test it in a car, you want to make sure there's just that right mixture of high bass and low bass, sub bass, and stuff that the 6x9s in your trunk are picking up, if that makes sense. So you want to get that all right and sounding good and blended with your mix, and it's a good idea to start early in your song. Get that bass guitar in there early and start building up on that. Get it in there sounding good right away and make your other instruments work around it, you know, which isn't too hard. So here's how it sounds right now. I just got a basic software bass loaded up, a Native Instruments one. It's a Music Man replica. You know, it sounds pretty good. So here's how it is in the track. Okay, so real basic. First, let's just talk about the frequencies. You can see there's some low subwoofer bass, and then a lot of high mid-range, not high mid-range, but low mid, from 200 all the way up to 1K. And this is where people in their iPhone earpods or iPad earbuds, whatever they got, or shitty little earbuds that you put in, you're gonna hear the bass right here from 200, you know, to about 1,000. So that's the mid-range. You want to get a good blend of both, and I use this plugin all the time. It's Chris Lord Algae. It's a Waves plugin. It's CLA bass, and it's got all kinds of stuff built into it: distortion, pitch, subwoofer settings, treble, compression, all that kind of stuff bundled in together, and you can just kind of hear how it sounds. I've got the treble pulled down a little bit, and the compression cranked, and then just a touch sub. So this turns it on, and this is the level. All right, so here it is with that setting on. And without it. And with it. So you kind of get the idea. It's just beefing it up, making it, you know, cut through better. As far as how I would EQ it, well, so here's the kick drum. And there's a lot of 200 in the kick drum and a lot of 200 in the bass. So I kind of want to let the kick drum win, I guess, there. So I'll cut out a little bit of 220, maybe like a dB.5. And that kind of lets the kick drum still come through, because the bass is, you know, it's got sub in it and it's powerful. And then I guess I'm gonna have to cut this and do a second part. The next part I'll do some sidechain work, and then we'll just kind of see how it rests in there. So I'll do the next part here. Alright guys, back with the bass guitar mixing. Again, all we've really got is an EQ going, and I'll let you hear it one more time. Okay, so they're both playing at the same time, the bass guitar and the kick, and they're fighting for space. They're both low frequency, 50 hertz to 250 hertz. It gets really cloudy down there if you have too much going on at the same time. You got to make a decision which one is going to stand out more. And luckily, there's a reverb already on the kick sample that I'm using, so that kind of sends it back a little bit. So it already kind of sounds like the bass is in front of the kick drum, which is, you know, good, but I prefer my kick drums to be up front, the most important thing as far as how loud everything is and how it sounds. So here comes the sidechain trick again. I'm on the kick drum pattern, or track 2 here. I'm going to right click on track 1 where the bass guitar is and choose sidechain. Load up the limiter, compression tab, select the kick drum that I'm sending into the bass guitar here. And as I bring this threshold down, the kick drum pulls the volume on the bass guitar down further. And you'll see that here, this is the output volume level. You'll see as the signal starts coming, it kind of drops down and shows you the dips as it pulls the volume down. Alright. So if I pull it all the way down, you can barely hear the bass. Bring it back up. So that sounds pretty good. So really all we've got going on the bass so far, I've got an EQ pulling a little bit of 220 out, 227. That's low mid. It's a little muddy right there, right? And then I loaded up the CLA bass plugin, compressed it pretty heavily, pulled some of the treble down, and left some of the sub bass in there. And basically if I disable these, it just does a high pass filter and cuts that stuff out, I'm thinking. And then here, the limiter, we have the kick drum feeding into the bass guitar, compression, sidechain, lower the threshold, adjust the ratio to pull the volume down when the kick drum hits. So now, even though they're both in the low end frequency range, playing at the same time, you can both hear them really well. They're not really competing for space. If I were to save this tutorial as an MP3, take it out to the car and test it, I'd probably have to tweak a couple of things, like maybe adjust the overall volume level of the bass, or, you know, just little things like that. But you'd end up having to see how it sounds in your mix later on when you add stuff in. So all of that's cool. Hopefully this makes sense. That's just a start. Some songs, more R&B based, hip hop based songs, if you're using a bass, you're probably going to cut a lot of high end out. You just want to go for that low rumble. If you're doing rock music or, you know, anything else like that, jazz, funk, metal, they're all kind of different. So you just kind of have to listen to songs and decide what's going on, how much high end, how much mid, and how much sub are they letting through, and how are they mixing and compressing. You know, just listen for these things and figure out what you like and do it your own way, right? Just make sure you're testing it, make sure it sounds good and not clipping and distorting and sounding like crap. Don't be that guy. You are sitting out on your porch or your deck at home and you see some piece of shit car driving by and it sounds like it's falling apart because it's like a 1989 with like 212s in it and he's banging A$AP Rocky or something like that. You know, don't be that guy. Get your sound mixed right. You'll be looking tight. You'll be sounding good. Everything will be cool. Subscribe, comment, like the videos. I'll be back again. Until next time, guys. Later.